Hello to you. I'm FOX26 meteorologist Remeisha Shade. It's time to get a check of what's happening in the tropics. Like I've been mentioning all week long, we've made it to the final month of hurricane season, but things are still pretty active, pretty busy out there. And we have got a pretty major, big time, powerful hurricane in the Caribbean, actually rolling over Cuba right now. So we've got a lot to talk about. Before we get to that hurricane, let's go over the number of named storms and hurricanes we've had for this season so far. And we're up to 17 named storms. 10 of those have become hurricanes, and out of those, 4 have become major hurricanes. So we are certainly dealing with a pretty significant scenario as far as the number of named storms. And actually, we do have to increase that number of major hurricanes because our hurricane in the Caribbean right now, Rafael, has become a Category 3 major hurricane. So now we've actually had 5 major hurricanes. So that puts us up to 17 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and 5 major hurricanes, which certainly puts us in that above average category for this hurricane season. Typically, we'd have about 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes, but we have had more than that, and we've still got a few more weeks to go. At the beginning of the season, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration did come out with their official forecast for the 2024 season, calling for a range of 17 to 24 named storms. Out of those, 8 to 13 becoming hurricanes, and out of those, 4 to 7 becoming major hurricanes. So we certainly have reached that threshold for all 3 categories. All right, here are the names that we've had to use so far for this season, ranging from Alberto all the way down to Rafael, which is now a major Category 3 hurricane out in the Northwest Caribbean. The hurricanes have been Beryl, Debbie, Ernesto, Francine, Helene, Isaac, Kirk, Leslie, Milton, Oscar, and Rafael. Now, out of those hurricanes, we have had some that have become major hurricanes, Category 3 or greater. So those are Beryl, which briefly was a Category 5, Helene, which was a Category 4, Kirk, which was a Category 4, Milton, which was a Category 5, and now our 5th major hurricane of the season, Rafael, which has strengthened to a powerful Category 3. So we do have some additional names on this list for the remainder of this hurricane season. We could still have a tropical storm or Hurricane Sarah. That would be the next name on the list. Tony, Valerie, and then William. So for a while, things were a little slow earlier on in the season. Then it really picked up, and now the season basically panning out as expected right before it started, that it would be a busy above average season. All right, let's talk about Rafael, because that is what we are dealing with out there in the Northwest Caribbean. It is a hurricane, and it is a major hurricane. As of this afternoon, National Hurricane Center says Rafael officially made landfall in western Cuba, where hurricane warnings are currently in place. So it is currently lashing Cuba with heavy rain, damaging wind, and also the risk for storm surge. It will likely push into the Gulf of Mexico over the next day or two, and then most of the models have it slowing down and gradually weakening as it encounters southwesterly shear or more hostile winds that kind of help to rip it apart in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and it's also going to encounter some slightly cooler waters in parts of the Gulf of Mexico. Also, it's going to encounter and interact with a cold front that will be pushing through our area likely Friday and Saturday, but that will also kind of help us out. It's going to actually help to keep it off to our east and likely southeast, and it should not reach the Houston area. So we've got several different factors influencing this, but bottom line is that it appears that it will not quite make it to Houston, and even if it did, it would be likely in a much weaker state. But I don't think that's going to happen because that cold front will be rolling through Friday into Saturday. Latest satellite view of Hurricane Rafael will show you that it is rolling over the western portion of Cuba, where we currently have hurricane warnings in place. It is still a very healthy, organized looking tropical system out there, and you can see that number 3 there, indicating that it is a Category 3 hurricane capable of some major wind damage, wind gusts over 100 miles per hour, several inches of rain possible for portions of western Cuba, maybe up to a foot of rain. Storm surge could be life-threatening, and also there could be mudslides as well. So a lot of risk as Hurricane Rafael rolls over the Cuba area. Notice the watches and warnings. Areas shaded in red, those are the hurricane warnings. You can see Havana, Cuba at this point under a hurricane warning. We've got tropical storm warnings for a big chunk of the Florida Keys as well. So Rafael should stay far enough to the west where the Keys will not feel hurricane conditions, but tropical storm winds, heavy rain will still be likely for parts of the Florida Keys, so that's why they remain under that tropical storm warning. All right, Hurricane Rafael, as you see right here, as of our latest advisory, which did come in a few minutes ago, it looks like it has weakened just a bit. It did move up to a Category 3, 115-mile-per-hour hurricane. Now it looks like it's weakened back to a very powerful, very strong Category 2 hurricane with winds around 110 miles per hour. So it is still a very strong hurricane, but the wind speed has come down about 5 miles per hour. So that would make it a Category 2. But earlier today, it certainly did strengthen to a Category 3 just before it made landfall in Cuba. The wind is, or the movement is to the northwest around 14 miles per hour, and it will continue that trajectory, taking it into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So you can see the general track of Hurricane Rafael. It is going to continue to push to the west-northwest, and that's going to take it into the central Gulf of Mexico, likely by Friday. Notice it is maintaining that Category 2 hurricane status as we go into the first part of the weekend. However, like I said, it should start to encounter a more hostile environment out there. Wind shear, slightly cooler water, and that should weaken it a bit down to a Category 1 by Saturday and down to a tropical storm likely by Sunday and Monday. And notice, since yesterday, if you watch yesterday, the track for Rafael has shifted to the south. So that definitely means that it likely won't come towards Houston, but we'll have to watch it to see if it tries to get close to South Texas or parts of Mexico. But the track has definitely shifted, whereas yesterday Hurricane Center forecast had it moving closer to the Louisiana Gulf Coast, but for today that track has kind of shifted more to the south, but the water is a little bit warmer farther to the south, so that's why it is likely going to stay a little bit stronger for a few more days. So we will continue to closely monitor Rafael, but it does appear that it will not be heading towards Houston. I want to show you our computer model spaghetti plots, and these have kind of been all over the place as well over the last couple of days. However, it appears, like I said, that they will not have this hurricane rolling into Houston. Notice kind of what they do. They try to bring it up towards Houston, and then they kind of run into a wall. I think that's because that cold front will be pushing through the Houston area out into the Gulf of Mexico, and that will kind of block it from pushing into the southeast Texas Gulf Coast. So that front will come right on time to keep Rafael away from our area. All right, let's see what our GFS American Model Futurecast says about the situation. It is going to be potentially some minimal impacts that we could experience from Rafael as it gets a little closer to us. I do think that we are going to have the risk for higher rip currents as we go through the next few days, and there could be some larger swells out there with it out there churning in the central Gulf of Mexico. However, I don't think we're going to get a direct hit. So notice what happens by Saturday and Sunday. Here comes the cold front that will bring us a slightly better chance for showers and storms in Houston for Friday and Saturday. But that front will also kind of act as a wall and block Rafael from kind of moving farther into our area. So I do think it might get close by Sunday and maybe even by Monday, but it will likely stay off to our east or south because this front will keep it away. So it likely will continue tracking west to South Texas or closer to Mexico. A few models still have it trying to turn north up towards the Louisiana coast, but none of the models have it pushing into Houston because of this cold front. So like I said, that is some good news for us. We are going to be dealing with the potential for this system to impact our area. However, we are going to have that threat for what we consider some minimal impacts from this particular tropical system. So like I said, that is certainly some good news. We are going to have the chance, though, like I said, for it to get close to the area, but I do not anticipate it making it into the Southeast Texas area. So that is certainly good news. However, we will continue to monitor it. If that track changes, we will keep you updated. But for now, it does look like we're not going to be dealing with the threat for a direct hit from Raphael. So that's not the only system that we have out there. We're also tracking another system, or the potential for a tropical system. This one is in the southwestern Atlantic. And if this one were to develop into a tropical storm or hurricane, the name would be Sarah. So right now it's just a disorganized area of showers and storms, a trough of low pressure close to Puerto Rico, and it should get close to the Lesser Antilles over the next few days. It's kind of drifting to the west-northwest. So if it develops, it likely would head close to the Bahamas. Only about a 20% chance for development for this in the next 48 hours, a 30% chance for development over the next week or so. So like I said, low chance, but something that we will watch. But if that were to develop, that would become our next named storm, which would be Sarah. Water temperatures out there are not quite as toasty or warm as they have been for much of our hurricane season. Upper 70s for the north central Gulf of Mexico, low 80s for much of the rest of the Gulf. Still water temps near 80 for the western Atlantic, northwest Caribbean. So we've still got water warm enough to support a tropical system. However, it is not going to be super warm water that would continue to really help Raphael grow and strengthen. So that's why we think once it pushes into the Gulf, it will weaken just a bit. As far as formation zones for the rest of November, chances are low that we'll have several additional tropical systems, but there's still a shot for a tropical depression, tropical storm, even a hurricane for parts of the western Atlantic, a big chunk of the central Atlantic, and for parts of the west and central Caribbean. So we are closely monitoring that risk. Of course, we will keep you updated if we see anything concerning out there. As far as our tropical history, this is the time of the hurricane season where things usually start to kind of slow down and we start to see less and less systems. However, we got a big time hurricane out there in the Caribbean right now, so we will continue to monitor things. We could still have a tropical depression or a tropical storm Sarah over the next week near the Lesser Antilles and near the Bahamas. So of course we are monitoring things, but right now I think we will escape any type of direct hit from Hurricane Raphael. Of course, keep checking back every afternoon for a detailed update on what's happening out there in the tropics, and we will be here monitoring it closely and letting you know what the models are showing. Enjoy the rest of your day. Once again, I'm Fox 26 meteorologist Remeisha Shade.